Hello and welcome to all of our viewers from around the world. I'm Kristen Schwartz, licensed midwife and MC here at Gold. And here at Gold, we are getting ready for our Labor and Delivery Symposium that we get kicked off here in October. And with me now is our keynote speaker for this event, Rebecca Dekker. Welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you back here at Gold, kicking our symposium off with a very important presentation that is open to everyone. And I mentioned this for our viewers now, that they can sign up for this, and it is open access. And the topic of your presentation is vitamin K for newborns, unraveling social media myth from research-based facts. Such an important topic. I want to get back to that in just a moment. I want to talk a little bit about you first. Of course, Rebecca, you are a nurse, you have your PhD, and you're the founder and CEO of Evidence-Based Birth. So tell us a little bit about that background, very briefly.
Yeah, so I went into nursing and knew pretty quickly that I wanted to teach and do research. So I got my PhD at the University of Kentucky and went on to work there as an assistant professor. And along the way, I kind of discovered that I loved childbirth research. I originally wasn't planning on focusing on that. And in fact, I had already built kind of a research career in cardiovascular, but because of a couple personal experiences I had with my first baby being born at that hospital, and then my second baby being born with a midwife. And the contrast between the two models of care, one which was very depersonalized and kind of dehumanizing, to the midwifery model, where I was really centered in my care and given the opportunity to have autonomy and power and just be treated like a person, was so empowering for me as a parent that I wanted to help take all of the research I've been gathering and make it public. So that's what we do at Evidence-Based Birth.
Fantastic. And I have to tell you, I've used your resources in the past and have directed parents to your resources because, we want to give evidence-based information to our families that we serve, and so they can make the informed decision. And what you mentioned there about midwifery care, that is also true. However, I want to also mention, and this is also for our viewers out there have been so many changes also in our labor and delivery units. I know there are many nurses out there who are fighting really hard and advocating for their pregnant, clients and patients out there who really want to be there for their clients and do the best possible work and give them the best possible birth. So I just want to mention that as well there for all our nurses who are doing an incredible job out there. So, well, thank you for sharing that with us here, and also about the research and gathering all that information here for us as well. And now I would like to talk about vitamin K and the role of vitamin K. Can you explain that just briefly here, because we have a broad audience and maybe not everybody is familiar with what vitamin K, why is it given, and what does it do?
Yeah, so vitamin K is a fat soluble vitamin that helps activate different molecules in your blood for clotting. So if you need to clot, you're able to do so. And babies are born with very minimal amounts of vitamin K. Like other systems in their body, some of their systems have not reached full maturity yet. For example, their digestive system, their immune system, and also their ability to clot. So in the past, in centuries and thousands of years ago, we would lose babies to bleeding events after birth because they have not enough vitamin K. So a small percentage of babies would be lost that way. And then about 100 years ago, it was discovered that it was actually this vitamin, a simple vitamin, that if you give that, it can, in most cases, eliminate the chance of that baby experiencing a spontaneous bleed. And these bleeds are risky because the first sign is usually bleeding in the brain. And it can happen anywhere up to 6 months after birth. So vitamin K is given to protect babies from, being part of that percentage that might experience that. But the problem is it's been around for so long and it's a shot. So it gets lumped in with other controversial shots. And there's a lot of myths and rumors and fear-based information spread about it.
Right. And I know you will talk about that in more detail about that in your presentation, especially now with social media. Social media is great to an extent that parents get a lot of information. They feel connected to, other parents, other, pregnant families as well, and exchange their information as well, which is fantastic. But there's also a lot of misinformation out there. So what would you recommend for somebody who's looking at social media and looking to educate themselves? What should they be looking for when they're looking at social media posts to discern if this is a good post, a valid post, or somebody who's just putting out messaging there, for clicks and, clickbait as such?
Yeah, clickbait, I think rage bait, anything that makes you feel hyper emotional is often written that way on purpose. And for our own children, I think we have a natural instinct, almost that mama bear instinct, where we want to protect our children, especially our babies. So one of the biggest red flags is if people make claims without any supporting evidence. So for example, they might say, did you know that vitamin K causes eczema or it causes allergies? And they're just making this broad sweeping claim, but without any research to back it up. And we're going to talk more about that in the presentation. But, there are just dozens of myths about vitamin K, and we're going to take kind of the top 3 myths that we see used most often and perpetuated online and break them down with the actual research-based information. And I think that's going to be helpful, especially you mentioned nurses. Nurses are huge advocates for their patients, and we're seeing, when we're going to talk about the research on this, we're seeing more and more parents have hesitations around giving vitamin K, and the nurses are often the ones talking with them about it. So my hope is that, we'll be able to, in this hour together that we have with the presentation, to really dive into some of those hesitation points that parents have and kind of provide the healthcare workers, the birth workers with the evidence-based information so that they can calmly and confidently answer questions and know where to point them for more resources.
Absolutely. And resources are important. So you will give us plenty of resources. I know that. I had a little sneak peek at your presentation and by talking to you earlier. So you give us great resources that we can utilize in our practice too, and maybe share as well with the families we serve. And also another important point I want to bring up is effective communication strategies, right? I mean, it just doesn't really help if we have all the knowledge, if we are unable to really communicate that clearly without making the parent feel that we are pressuring them into decisions, right? The parent is the expert on that child and should be a partner in care. So, can you just give us briefly, before I let you go, and this is my last question for you, some communication tips that you can give us on the way here when talking to parents?
Yeah, I think, like you said, knowledge is power. So sometimes people just need knowledge, they need information. And, one example is some people may be worried about giving the vitamin K via a shot due to some language in the label on the box of the vitamin K that recommends a different kind of administration. And so parents might not understand, well, why is it being given as an intramuscular injection if the box says subcutaneous? And so what we can do is talk with them about how injecting it into a larger muscle ensures that it becomes available to the body quickly, but there's also this depot or reserve of vitamin K that will gradually be released over the next months, protecting the baby over time. And that's why it's given that way, and that's why it's best practice, and the guidelines recommend that. So sometimes people have hesitations because they don't have all the information. So information is really key. And then also not judging people. There are reasons they're afraid, and it also comes from a good place. I think most parents want what's best for their baby. They want to protect their baby. So just remembering we're all kind of on the same team, and that part of your role as the healthcare worker is to help dispel misinformation and to give accurate information.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. And I know you're training healthcare providers as well, and you have a great podcast. So very briefly, where can we find you, Rebecca?
Yeah, you can find us at evidencebasedbirth.com. We also have the Evidence Based Birth podcast, and we have an Instagram page at EBBirth. And also, one thing that is coming up, well, scratch that. I'm not going to tell you about that. Maybe I'll tell people at the Q&A. We do have a new resource for infant care that we're excited to start talking about, but it's not ready yet. So I'll wait till we're doing the Q&A maybe after the presentation.
Sounds fantastic. Well, thank you, Rebecca Dekker, for being here with us today, talking about the amazing work you've been doing in the community and also educating. And we're looking so much forward to your presentation, Vitamin K for Newborns, Unraveling Social Media Myth from Research-Based Facts. Thank you. It's been a pleasure hosting you here today.
Thank you. It's going to be an amazing conference.
And really briefly for our viewers, if you'd like to find out more about this presentation, which I mentioned is open access, so everybody can sign up for it as well. And if you want to find out about all the other wonderful presentations in the Labor and Delivery Symposium, please visit goldlearning.com for more information. Thank you all for watching. Have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye, everyone.